guys, how you doing? This is Ben, the Real Estate Pro, coming at you. Hopefully, going to kick you some knowledge. So, I like to go to different people's YouTube channels that are talking about real estate and interact with the people that are making comments. I find it quite interesting and I find it quite enjoyable. I like it to be constructive. I don't like people arguing with each other and calling each other names. But I think there are some questions and some misconceptions out there amongst agents about what's going to be happening and what I believe, just my opinion, the life is going to be like post NAR settlement and post all these trials happening. And I think that a lot of agents kind of missing the boat, so to speak, because they're really looking at things the kind of the wrong way. I think the big thing that we need to realize is that we're in a shifting paradigm. And this is what I mean. The word paradigm. It was explained to me by a very smart person one time that what it means to change paradigms is when something that was true or we were operating under a certain set of rules no longer is true. And we're operating under a different set of rules. And I think that that's what a lot of agents are missing. Okay? Things are going to change. Now, how they're going to change, I don't know. Are things going to be much different? Maybe. Is nothing going to change? Maybe. I think that's unlikely, but it's possible. Maybe things will stay exactly the same. Maybe we'll get to the same goal, but in a different way, in a very similar way. I don't feel that way. I think we're going for some changes. I think that if we embrace the changes, it's possible that we may become very successful. And even if it doesn't change, well, it's how we've been operating anyway. So it's not really too big of a risk, I think. And I think waiting around and just kind of waiting for things to happen, I think that's risky. I think taking action right away is definitely the thing to do. But anyway, I got this question from a YouTuber that I thought was a great question. Now I've paraphrased the question a little bit and asked it in a different way, but if you're looking at your screen right now, it says, what if my client asked me to not show them houses that aren't offering buyer's agent commissions? Okay. Now, at first glance, I wonder why would a buyer ever say that or ask me that? But let's just go ahead and, for the sake of argument, let's go ahead and ask the question, what if a buyer asked me to engage in this type of agreement? Well, on the surface, it sounds like an easy question to answer. Like, well, then I just won't show them properties that aren't giving buyer's agent commissions. But to me, I think that is extremely risky, not only for you, but also your buyer and maybe even the seller. But I digress a little bit. Let's go ahead and go with the slide. So anyway, first thing I would do personally is I would go seek legal counsel. And what I would ask them is simply this: hey, my buyer is asking me to not show them properties that aren't offering buyer's agent commissions. What type of legal jeopardy am I in? Okay, and then I would go to my broker and say, hey, look, I have this situation. How should we handle it? Okay. The big thing is, am I putting myself at risk? Is it possible that I could be accused of steering? Now, I understand you might say, well, wait a minute. The buyer is asking me to do this activity, right? But the reality is, guys, they're the consumer, okay? And we have a fiduciary responsibility to guide them, all right? And one of the things that we as agents have to do is sometimes we have to protect our clients from themselves, okay? Sometimes clients sometimes they want to make really bad decisions when it comes to a real estate deal, and it's up to us to say, hey, probably not a good idea. Maybe we should look at this a little bit differently and move forward in this way. Okay? Is it possible that I might be accused of misrepresentation? Okay? Is it possible that they could say, and this is what I'm talking about as our buyer client later on, that they can say that I misrepresented the truth to them, okay, as it pertains to the transaction that we either closed or that we did with them, okay? Is it possible that later on that we may see some buyer's remorse. And guys, if you're in any type of sales, I don't care whether you're selling Kirby vacuum cleaners or you're selling timeshares or you're selling cars or real estate, you're going to run into situations where you have buyer's remorse, okay? Now, in some cases, it's much ado about nothing. In other cases, it can land you in court. Okay, so those are things that I would ask my legal representation, and I would also ask my broker. If you're the broker, obviously I would encourage my broker, hey, let's talk to an attorney and see what they say. Now, based on what they say, then you can make your decision as to what you want to do and how you want to handle that situation, okay? Now, me personally, I would never advise my clients to do that. So if I had a client that asked me that and said, hey, I don't want to look at properties that don't have buyer's agent commissions. Let's just go ahead and look at the ones that do. Okay? Well, I would tell them, I think that is a very bad idea. Let's go ahead and look at all the properties that you are interested in. And then those properties that aren't offering a buyer's agent commission, we'll just go ahead and make the offer and request that they provide funds so you can pay your buyer's agent commission. Okay? Or, depending on the resources of your client, you can say, let's go ahead and look at everything that you want to look at. And when we make our offer, we'll ask for seller concessions, which is very common. Okay, I think like half of, I can't remember who said this off the top of my head, but like half of offers that are going out right now by buyers to sellers are asking for some type of seller commission or seller concession. So what can happen there is if we ask for seller concessions and they agree to it, that might open up your buyer's funds a little bit so that they can pay you your buyer's agent commission. Okay? So those two possibilities I would present to my client and steer, or I shouldn't say steer, but get away from, okay, just saying, hey, let's not look at properties that aren't offering a buyer's agent commission. Okay? You want to provide a better solution. So I would, this is just me, I'm not telling you what to do, I'm just telling you what I would do. I would say, look, let's go look at everything that you want to look at. The ones that aren't offering it, we'll just ask for it. And then, you have to realize the buyer's agent commissions are not really the buyer's problem. They are a little bit, but really it's the agent's problem. And here's what I mean by that. Guys, the reality is buyers, whether they realize it or not, they have options in this new paradigm. Okay, they can go directly to the listing agent and not pay you a commission. Is that necessarily the best way to do it? No. Are there pros and cons? No, but there's pros and cons to everything. Okay, they don't actually need a buyer's agent, okay, in order to present an offer. All right. So, and then the other thing too is, I think, this is my opinion, I think buyers are going to have a lot more options than we're even thinking about right now. I mean, I can see, and I've heard of this already, I've heard of banks offering, or they're thinking about, or they're looking at models that would offer agency services to a potential buyer as long as they're to their clients. So if you can imagine walking into your bank and say, I want to buy a house, they say, well, yeah, why don't you come over here, do the loan with us, your bank, and we'll give you an agent at no additional charge. I mean, could you imagine that? How much that could possibly change things? I know that there are mortgage lenders that are looking at the hybrid LO agent model right now. And actually, that's very popular in places like California. Okay, my brokerage in California is under that model and has been for over a decade. Okay, so like I said, it's really not the buyer's problem, and that's not the way you want to look at it as an agent, as the buyer's problem. You want to look at it as your problem, and you want to present solutions. Okay, so what I would do personally is I would say, hey, let's go look at properties. And when we go look at the properties, I just simply tell my clients, hey, this one we're going to go look at. The seller is not offering any type of buyer's agent commission. Okay. Now that doesn't mean they won't change their mind, or that doesn't mean that if we present our offer, they won't give it to us. Guys, there's a saying in sales, And this is something you want to burn in your brain, okay? You never get unless you ask. I'm going to say it again because it's so important. You never get unless you ask, okay? So I'm going to make the offer, and I'm going to ask them to pay the buyer's agent commission. Or I'm going to ask for a seller concession, which, like I said before, may open up the funds for your client to pay you, the buyer's agent. Okay? You have to try. It is your fiduciary responsibility as an agent to try and to work for your client and to look out for the best interest of your client. Okay? If your client asks you to do something that you don't feel is in their best interest or that is very hurtful to them in the effort to try and purchase a house, it is your responsibility to let them know. Okay? Let's let the seller decide. When you present the offer, let the seller decide. Okay? Maybe they'll change their mind. You know, it's possible maybe the property's been sitting on the market for a while. You know, because a lot of agents will tell you, hey, if you don't present or give a buyer's agent commission, maybe your property might sit around for a while because the buyer's agent won't come out and sell or come out and show it. Now, in my mind, and according to the DOJ, that's steering. But let's just go ahead and use that for an example. Okay? Well, maybe the seller will be like, you know, I haven't had a lot of luck. I haven't had a lot of people. You know, this is an offer, and they're asking me to pay the buyer's agent commission. Maybe we ought to just go ahead and go for it. Okay, but once again, if you don't make the offer or if you completely omit that particular property from the list, you're never going to know. Okay, you're going to want to be creative as an agent. Think outside the box. Okay, like I was talking about, we're in a different paradigm now. Okay, now the reason why I say this is, you know, where the legal pitfall might come in. Okay, is let's say that you have a client and you agree that, hey, I'm not going to show you any properties that aren't showing or aren't offering a buyer's agent commission. You only go after those ones that are, okay? And let's say that they buy a property. Maybe they didn't really like it. It wasn't their first choice. They kind of wish that some of the other properties that weren't offering a buyer's agent commission, they liked better, but they couldn't buy them because you, the agent, agreed to not show them those particular properties. All right? So they buy another property, and maybe they like it, maybe they don't. And they go on about their lives. And then, you know, the one thing that you have to understand is people talk. And later on, what if, and this is just a what if, it's just a scenario, we're just spitballing here, but what if they happen to find out that one of the properties they were interested in, that they didn't go see simply because you didn't think that they were offering a buyer's agent commission, all of a sudden you found out, oh wow, they did pay a buyer's agent commission. The seller changed their mind, or some circumstance changed and they decided to go ahead and offer one. Or maybe they were convinced by a good agent who made an offer and said, hey, we have a good offer here. These people are good borrowers on top of good buyers. They're just asking for some help as far as their buyer's agent commission, and the seller accepted. And then your buyer's like, well, wait a minute. My buyer's agent didn't show us this property. Even though they may have asked you not to show it to them, okay, they're the consumer. Okay, there are no real estate agent protection acts around, okay, but there's a whole lot of consumer protection acts and statutes around, okay? The law protects the consumer, not you. So while you may have done everything right, you may have followed your buyer's instruction to the T, all of a sudden you're in court. You didn't do anything wrong, but guys, people who didn't do anything wrong end up in court all the time. Okay, civil cases happen all the time for the dumbest reasons you could ever think of. All right, and do you really want to risk that as an agent? Okay, guys, just like I said before, sometimes you have to save your client from themselves. And in this particular scenario, okay, this is an example of just what I would do. is I would say, no, let's not do that. I have a better solution. I have a better way of going about doing this. Okay? Like I said, be creative. All right? Think outside the box a little bit. And remember your fiduciary duty to your client. Okay? Now, this question, like I said before, on the surface, looks like a very easy question to answer. But honestly, you have to think of things in the best interest of your client, and then you have to protect yourself as well. Okay? You have to look at these scenarios, seek legal counsel when it's warranted, talk to your broker, and make your decision based off of those things. Anyways, guys, I hope this helps you a little bit, answers this question, gives you some ideas. And guys, at the end of the day, it's like this. These changes are going to come up, okay? And then you need to get creative. Because if you don't, your competition will. And if you don't get creative and you don't keep up with your competition, if you don't keep changing and get better, you may want to think about another profession. All right, guys, this has been the Real Estate Pro. Hopefully this helps you, and I'll talk to you next time.